the term cost estimation allows us to predict the financial resources that will be required to produce a product or to complete a project. Now, these resources can be variable or fixed, but as an organization, you want to know the total cost you will incur just to produce a product or to complete a project. So now this total cost now is the addition of your variable cost, which is the cost that changes with the level of output, and your fixed cost that does not change with the level of output. When you add the fixed cost and the variable cost, that's how you get your total cost. It is also a way of predicting how much money you will need just to complete a project or to produce a product. For you to know the total money you are going to need is for you to know the total cost that you are going to incur just to complete that project or to produce that product. So now this total cost now is when you, as I said earlier, when you add the fixed cost with your variable cost. That's how you know the total cost that you are going to incur to produce that product or to complete the project. We also have method of calculating the total cost that you will need just to complete the project or to produce that product, or to know the amount of fixed cost that you incurred to produce the product, or the variable cost that was incurred, any of which, whether it's the total cost, the fixed cost, or the variable cost. Now we have different method of calculating it. We have the accounting analysis, we have the high and low method, we have the linear regression method. We'll start with the high and low method, while in other videos we'll have the accounting analysis method and regression method. The high and low method is a simple way to separate fixed and variable cost from total cost using just two data points. Now these two data points are the highest data points and the lowest data points. So if you have a range of different data, like from, let's say you have a cost from 2010 up to 2020. Now you are going to take the highest data between 2010 to 2020 and the lowest data from 2010 to 2020. So we are only using just two data, which is the highest one and the lowest data. That is what is being used to calculate high and low method, just as the name implies, high and low, the highest data and the lowest data. For better understanding, we'll be solving a question on cost estimation using the high and low method. This is a record of Johnson's Limited. Now, this record was for just 5 years. Now, it started from 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. Now, in 2013, he had an output of 65,000. The total cost he made to produce the 65,000 units was 145,000. So other costs too, from 2014, he made a unit of 80,000 and incurred 162,000 total cost. 2015, the same thing, he made an output of 90,000 and made a total cost and incurred a cost of 170,000. In 2016, he made a total unit of 60,000 and incurred a total cost of 140,000. In 2017, he made a unit of 75,000 and incurred a total cost of 160,000. So now they are asking us, you are required to calculate the total cost that should be incurred in 2018 if output is 85,000. You know, we have not gotten to 2018. There's no 2018 here in the question. So which means that they are asking you to calculate the total cost that is going to make if is to produce 85,000 units. We are going to be solving it using the high and low method. Using the high and low method, whereby we take the highest unit that was produced and the cost of that highest, the total cost incurred on that highest unit, and we take the lowest unit that was produced and the total cost that was incurred in producing that lowest unit. So now if you look at our table, if you go through our table, the highest unit that was produced in our table was in 2015. Now if we take the units we produced in 2015, which was what? The unit that was produced in 2015 was 90,000 units. The total cost incurred to produce 90,000 units was $170,000. Then if you go through the table, you get the lowest unit that was produced, which was 60,000 units. And the cost that was incurred in producing that unit was 140,000. So the next thing you're going to do now is you subtract the highest unit from the lowest unit, which is 90,000 minus 60,000. And you subtract the cost of the highest unit, which is $170,000, from the cost incurred in the lowest data, which was $140,000. So if you subtract the two of them, you have $30,000. So now to get your variable cost, the result you got was 30,000 units, and the cost that you got was $30,000. So which is $30,000 divided by 30,000 units. So once you divide it, you will now have your $1 per unit, which is our variable cost per unit. So now, since we have gotten our variable cost per unit, the next thing to get now is your total fixed cost. To get total fixed cost, you have to subtract your total cost from your variable cost. The total cost that we have in the highest units was $170,000 minus $1, which is our variable cost per unit, multiplied by the units that was produced, which was 90,000 units. So if you multiply 1 times 90,000 units, you still have what? 90,000 units. So the result you have, subtract it from $170,000, which is the total cost. So if you subtract the $170,000 from the $90,000 as your variable cost, you are going to have $80,000 as your total fixed cost. So now, since you have subtracted and you have your total fixed cost as $80,000, so which means we have our variable costs and our what? Fixed cost. So now the main question now is for us to know the total cost that was incurred in 2018, which was not in our table, if 85,000 units was produced. So how are you going to get the total cost for 2018 if 85,000 units was produced? To get the total cost, you have to add the fixed cost in addition to the variable cost. The $80,000 we got as our total fixed cost. We have to use our $1, which is our variable cost per unit, then multiply it by the 85,000 units that was produced in 2018. So which means that our total fixed cost $80,000 plus the $1 times multiplied by the 85,000 units that was produced in 2018. So when you multiply the $1 by the 85,000 units that was produced in 2018, you have $85,000. So if you add the $80,000, which is our total fixed cost, if you add this to our variable cost, which is which is $85,000. If you add the two of them up, you are going to have $165,000. So which means our total cost that was incurred in 2018 was $165,000.